You're now looking at the Jungfrau in the Swiss Alps, standing at 458 meters. It's one of Europe's most iconic snow-covered peaks. From here you can admire glaciers, valleys, and lakes, an unforgettable panoramic view. Riding the cogwheel train to the top of Europe is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Whether hiking in summer or skiing in winter, this is a paradise for nature lovers. 15 years ago, in a small countryside hospital, something both beautiful and heartbreaking happened. 3 tiny baby girls were born, triplets, identical in their delicate faces, yet each with a spark of uniqueness in their eyes. They should have been welcomed with joy, with laughter, and with warm embraces. But, instead, silence filled the room. For reasons no one fully understood, the babies were left behind, abandoned before they could even be held by their mother. Wrapped in thin hospital blankets, the 3 sisters lay side by side in a crib, their soft cries echoing gently through the dimly lit ward. No one knew then what the future would hold. But this was only the beginning of a story, one of struggle, kindness, and the unbreakable bond of sisterhood. The first to notice them was Nurse Layla. She had been working the night shift, checking rooms one by one, when she found the 3 newborns lying quietly in the crib. At first, she thought their mother must have stepped out for a moment. But hours passed, and no one came back. A folded note was all that was left. It carried no name, only a few words written in shaky handwriting. "Please take care of them. I cannot." Lila's heart ached as she read the words. She knew the world could be harsh, especially for children left alone at the very start of their lives. Still, as she looked at the 3 sisters, something stirred inside her, an unshakable feeling that these children were meant for more than sadness. And so she vowed silently that night. They would not be forgotten. The triplets were soon taken to a small orphanage on the edge of town. It was not a grand place, but it was filled with warmth, and that warmth would shape their lives in ways no one could yet imagine. The caretakers placed the 3 girls in cribs side by side, just as they had been in the hospital. Even as infants, they reached out toward each other, tiny hands brushing against tiny cheeks, as though reminding the world that they belonged together. The orphanage children quickly grew curious about them. Some whispered that the sisters looked like 3 little angels sent from heaven. Others simply admired their soft laughter and the way they seemed to brighten any room. Though they were abandoned, they were never alone. From the very beginning, they had each other, and that bond became their greatest strength. Years passed, and the 3 sisters grew together like wildflowers in the same patch of soil. They ran through the orphanage garden, chasing butterflies, their laughter carrying in the wind. Each girl had her own spark. Amina, the eldest by minutes, was protective, always the first to hold her sister's hands when crossing the yard. Sana, the middle one, carried a light in her eyes that made others smile, even on dull days. And Hana, the youngest, was curious, asking questions about the world far beyond the orphanage walls. Though they had little, just second-hand clothes and hand-me-down toys, they shared everything. A single doll became 3, because they played with it together. A slice of bread tasted sweeter because they split it equally. In every way, they reminded the world that family is not always given. It is chosen, and it is lived. As the years went on, the sisters began to notice the world outside their small circle. At school, children sometimes whispered about them, about how no one came to visit on Parents' Day, about how they had no last name to carry. The triplets felt the sting of those words, yet they found comfort in one another. Amina focused on her studies, determined to prove that their beginnings did not define their future. Sana discovered her love for drawing, filling scraps of paper with sketches that seemed to capture life's hidden beauty. And Hannah, with her endless questions, dreamed aloud about places far away, about the sea, the mountains, and the big cities she had never seen. Though life wasn't always kind, they held each other up. Each hardship only made their bond stronger, as if life itself was shaping them for something greater. One autumn afternoon, the sound of footsteps echoed through the orphanage hall. A visitor had arrived, a woman named Miriam, known in town for her kindness. She had no children of her own, but her heart was wide and full. As she handed out fruit to the children, her eyes kept returning to the three girls who stood close together, shy yet unbreakably united. "Triplets?" she whispered with gentle wonder. The caretaker nodded. Miriam knelt before them, smiling softly. "You three remind me of sunlight, bright in different ways yet shining together." The sisters did not fully understand her words, but they felt the warmth in her voice. That day marked the beginning of something new, something they had never dared to hope for. For the first time, it seemed possible that their story might not end with loneliness, but with family. Not long after her visit, Miriam made a decision that would change all their lives. She returned to the orphanage again and again, spending time with the sisters, learning their laughter, their dreams, and even their quiet fears. And then, one morning, the girls were told to pack their few belongings. A home was waiting. Standing at the doorway of Miriam's house, the triplets clutched each other's hands tightly. They had known only the walls of the orphanage, and the thought of something new was both exciting and frightening. But as Miriam guided them inside, she spoke softly. "This is your home now. You are safe here." The girls looked around the cozy rooms, the flower pots on the window, the smell of fresh bread in the air, and for the very first time, they felt what it meant to belong. Time moved gently, and the three sisters blossomed into their teenage years. Miriam gave them not only shelter, but the freedom to dream, to explore who they were becoming. Amina grew thoughtful and determined, excelling in her studies, with hopes of one day becoming a teacher. Sana's hands were rarely still, always sketching, always painting, as though her soul could only speak through colors and shapes. And Hannah. She dreamed the loudest of them all, imagining places far beyond their small town, her heart set on seeing the world one day. On quiet evenings, the sisters often sat together on the rooftop, sharing secrets, whispering hopes, and watching the stars. Though their lives had begun in abandonment, they had grown into young women full of promise, each different, yet forever connected by the thread of sisterhood. 15 years had passed since the night they were left behind in the hospital crib. Now, the triplets had grown into young women who carried themselves with quiet strength. When they walked together through the town, people often paused, not only because of their beauty, but because of the light they carried, something deeper than appearances, something born of struggle and survival. Amina prepared for her final school exams, determined to enter university. Sana began displaying her art in small-town exhibits, her sketches already drawing admiration. And Hannah kept a travel guide tucked in her bag, saving every coin for the day she could step beyond the horizon. They were no longer the abandoned babies once left in silence. They were young women with dreams, with hope, and with a story that was only just beginning. On their 15th birthday, the little house was filled with laughter and the warm glow of candles. The sisters sat side by side, just as they had in that hospital crib so many years ago. But now, their lives were different. They had a mother in Miriam, a home filled with love, and a future full of possibility. As the candles flickered, Amina whispered, "Do you think our real mother ever thinks of us?" Miriam placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and said softly, "Perhaps she does. But what matters most is that you were never truly alone. You had each other. And now, you have me too." The girls leaned closer, smiling through quiet tears. In that moment, they understood. Family is not defined by blood alone. It is built by love, by care, and by the choice to never let go.